Good afternoon, everyone. This is the January 14th edition of the Elementary Assessment Coordinator meeting. We're going to get started now. Today's big topics are we're going to spend time on finishing up the access testing, and then we will spend more time talking about the screeners, Aimsweb and FastBridge, and then we'll move into what's going on in the spring with Forward. So we're going to be moving rather quickly into that particular time of year. So just wanted to give you a heads up. That's what we're going to be talking about today. All right. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about access, as I just said, Aimsweb, FastBridge, Forward. It says changes. It's pretty much the same as last year. We'll talk briefly about dynamic learning maps, and then we will move into the opt-outs. There's always questions about that, but we will focus first of all on access. So I appreciate everybody's focus. We've already been there. So folks who are supporting you, again, the assessment team, myself, Sarah and Jamie, Stacy from Student Services, and Ben from Multilingual Education. So we're all in this mix together and here to support you. So again, just want to touch on some of the resources. So if you have not been to the access, or the coordinators page, let us know and we can give you a link to that. But we're going to jump right away into access for English language learners. So kind of where we've been and where we're going, what remains. You can see that the window opened on December 3rd. We had the winter break. Now we're back and in the swing of things. MLK Day is on Monday and semester is on 24th. The window closes on the 31st. So we're getting down to the end of things as well. Just again, some of the timeline. First of all, I want to just remind everyone that all English learners should take the access or the alternate access. So if you have questions about specific students, make sure that you let us know. But also, if someone is newly arrived, if they arrive before the 24th of January, then they have to go through the same process as any other day that an English learner enrolls in the district. So again, they take the home language survey, they take the WIDA screener. If it indicates that they are, in fact, English learners, then we will get them tickets and they will take the access. However, because of the amount of time, we understand that it takes to do access testing, especially as you're trying to grab all the students who have only bits and pieces left. After the 24th, you still go through that same process, home language survey, WIDA screener, but if they're identified as English language learners, then we can wait until next year to give the access test. This provides you a little bit of cushion to finish up everything because we know that there's a lot going on. Now, especially at elementary level, there is more physical material than at any other level. So we want to make sure that you understand, first of all, that this material needs to be returned to us. If you're returning booklets, make sure that the student labels are in place for each booklet. If you have a label for the student, make sure that it is there. If there is no label, for instance, a newly arrived student, you need to complete the bubble sheet. So the bubbles need to be completed, not just the name filled in the boxes, but all the bubbles filled in. Because believe it or not, somebody has to do that by hand. And that somebody typically is on this meet. So they would likely tell you that it's really not fun to have to bubble in 45 or 50 of these sheets. So please make sure that if there's no student label, that you bubble in that sheet. The demographics, okay, yes, thank you. Please put a yellow school and district label on the front of the booklet because we do, after all of this, we do want the student to be scored, their information to be scored. We're going to talk about where you can find the state ID in AMS. And if you can't find it there, please let us know and we'll make sure that we get that information to you. It is not the same as the MMSD ID. State ID is 10 digits long. We know that MMSD is 6 digits long. So please make sure you put in the right student ID. What other kinds of information are you looking for, Robert? Like
sorry,
where the link?
For example, what Sarah just wrote in the chat, if that could just be the presentation.
Yes, but also please refer to the agenda. There's a link to the access return instructions where all of that information is embedded. And it was also sent to all access coordinators on January 10th. So I did include the link on the agenda, which I will link in the chat.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate the question. Okay. So unused materials. Jordan, let me just check on that. Sarah, what do you think?
That's used for research purposes and it shouldn't affect the scoring. So it's up to you whether you'd like to complete it or not.
Okay, thank you. Our CC staff was asking, and with our bilingual coach out, I just wanted to ask before I dug through the information.
Yeah, great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you have unused material, and if you have regular, used material that's completed, everything except for tickets, please make sure you send that back to Sarah here at Doyle no later than the 4th of February. Believe it or not, there will be a follow-up by DRC. They will be asking us, and if we, sometimes it's even in late June, early July, they'll say, where is this? And we'll have to say, well, we'll try and get a hold of the people at the school. So if you can really work hard at getting all the materials returned, that would be great. If you've got a box full right now, don't hesitate to send it to us as soon as you're ready to roll, because we can start getting those sent out. Especially the younger grades with the writing material, the vendor is anxious to score those. So, if you're done and they're just sitting there, please send them to us. If not, don't stress about it. All right, so let's. Okay, here is where you can find the student state ID number. So typically you won't be able to find this in IC, but here is a place that you can do that. So go to the test management once you've logged in. In the search bar, you can put in the student name. Make sure you're under registered students. This one I have set for East High School. So if you were just to use this same setting, it would not get you what you need. But so right here, you put in your school name, registered students, the student name, search for it, and then you will find the state student ID listed. All right, let's continue. Now, one of the things that I'm going to be sending everybody shortly this week yet is going to be a completion rate. I'll be sending a spreadsheet because just want to make sure that you're aware of where everything is at. If you haven't gotten a list already, I'm going to be sending you a list of students that are done or not done or in progress, not started, etc. Please keep in mind that grades 1 through 3, the writing portion appears as not started. You know who is already tested. So don't worry if it says not started, because the vendor will change that from not started to completed once they receive those booklets. So I'll be giving you a set of instructions just to kind of follow up on. if you have students who are not going to finish a test, we need to share that information of why they are not finishing the test with DPI. So there will be a process to go through at the end for that as well. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Now, where I'm going to pull this information is the same place that you can pull this from. It's called the completion report. And Jamie, I'm wondering, I was not able to put it into the slide deck. I'm wondering if you can put that into the agenda in the notes section, link that in. There's a how-to document that we created to make sure that this is also available to you. But when you're logged into DRC Insight, click on reporting services. So when you're in reporting services, it takes you literally to another site. And this is where all the scoring information is held. So over on the left-hand side, there is an operational dashboard, which gives you both this test status and the student status. So the test status gives you an overall picture of where the school is at. And I thought I had put one in. There we go. This is what the test status looks like. You'll be able to see the information, how it'll lay this out by percentages or how you're doing as a school completely, and it'll give you more information. Also on the completion report, if you check the box called select student status, where it gives you individual progress, this is where I'm going to go, is I'm going to click on that, and then there's a box that's designed to let you click on it and get an Excel spreadsheet. So I will get an Excel spreadsheet, clean it up, so there's only the most important information on it, and I will be sending that to you this week. So you can see, for instance, if a student is completed, if they've not started, and if they are, if they've got a not tested reason already, or most importantly, if they're in progress. If you thought a student was complete, and yet it says in progress, it might simply mean that they have not gone in and clicked submit. So those are some of the things we'll check on, just because we want to make sure that everybody gets that completed as much as possible. I'll be sending that out yet this week to everyone. Some final notes on access. The tickets you can destroy, meaning shred them. They are considered secure test material, so please don't just throw them in the recycling bin. Please shred them. And again, physical materials, so all the booklets, everything else must be sent back to us by the 4th of February. And again, DRC checks all this material, so we will make sure that we want to make sure that it gets back to them, so we don't have to email you towards the end of school saying, where is this? All right. Moving on. Let's talk a little bit about winter screening. Please keep in mind that this is a multi-department process here at central office. So I may not have the answers, nor will necessarily my team, but we can certainly get you in touch with the right people if you have questions. So first of all, FastBridge still remains our screener for grades 4 through 5 ELA and for math K5. The window closes on the 17th of January, which is Friday. So again, if you have questions about FastBridge, the best way to get a hold of anybody is to send an email to fast@madison.k12.wi.us. That is a team of people. Yes, this is different than the AimsWeb window. So it is typically where we were at a year ago. This is the window. So the fast@ email will give you a team of people who are either technical or content area folks with FastBridge. Ames Web window is different, goes through the end of January. And so the resources that are listed here, so this helpful resources will give you things like the snapshot, score snapshot report has been translated into Hmong and Spanish. And so those will be listed there on the middle of the year screening. Towards the bottom of that, helpful resources. So if you need to send student the snapshot report home to families and they need to have it translated into another language, we have those two available for you. They are not word for word because those scores, those reports are specific to a student, but they will cover all the possibilities that are listed on this score snapshot report. Again, questions about PRPs, about this entire process, please email amesweb at madisonk12wi.us. And again, we have people who are able to respond to all of these different questions. So question is, if as we get, this is a brand new assessment, and as we're learning more about this, we will be running into this, and we have been. So what you need to do if you have a student that needs to have their assessment, their probe reset, is email myself, because I'm the one that is going to do that, but actually include amesweb at, because we're trying to keep track of these kinds of questions. So email amesweb at, please include the student name and the grade and the homeroom teacher that the student is in, and we will set you up with that. I'll double check on the question. I will make sure that I could have that wrong. I thought, because I checked the calendars, but I will double check to make sure if there's any additional time for the math, and I'll email everybody that. So, okay, I don't want to get everybody upset and saying, Tim said, well, okay, thank you, Sarah. It is open until the 31st, so I need to change that slide. So please make sure you do understand. Thank you for double checking on that, and thank you for asking the question. All right. So sorry to yes, I know. Sorry to get everybody anxious. Now, there is something that I just want to know. I want to share with you that this has been highlighted and said out before, but because there's so much, there's such an avalanche of information coming at you all the time, I just want to make sure that you understand this. Legally, we have to complete the window for AmesWeb in the spring 45 days before the end of school. That puts the closing date at April 18th. The start of the window can only begin on the 17th of March. So that is a really tight window, especially since we have spring break in there. So the third, March 17th through April 18th is the spring window for AmesWeb. The spring window for FastBridge has not changed from a year ago, and it is going to be in May. Now, again, what concerns me most, but I do want to make sure that you understand this, is that the FastBridge window overlaps for third graders with forward testing. So please, we pushed back really hard on DPI, and they said, nope, this is it. So hopefully the rest of the state has figured that out by now and can push back on this next year. But this is what we're left with. So I apologize, not within my control. The explanation for 45 days prior to the end of the school is written into the state statute. I believe it is designed so that there could be one more set of interventions prior to the end of the school year. This is what I got. So, yes, the Spanish literacy is for FastBridge, and that would be the FastBridge window. So sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I didn't want to have you be surprised on March 17th when suddenly it's like, okay, they're all open, and you're going, what? So we'll work doing the best we can in support of you. If you have questions, now I know you have concerns, but if there's things that we can help you with, please let us know. And on that happy note, sorry, we're going to move forward to the forward exam. All right, so this year, the forward exam is, there are no changes that I'm aware of. Last year, there were several changes. Again, this is a state mandated exam. It is designed to show student progress learning the state standards. It is also used for ESSA accountability, the federal accountability, and that is also in statute. All students are expected to take the forward exam unless your IEP has you pointed towards using a different set of state standards, which are called the essential elements. In that case, the expectation is that you would take the dynamic learning maps, which is an alternate exam that will allow you to, well, better assess a student on the essential elements. If a student is not pointed towards the essential element standards on their IEP, then it is not appropriate for them to take the dynamic learning maps. All right, again, some fundamentals. It is a computer-based, but it's not adaptive assessment. Students will be using their Chromebooks for this. The DRC Insight is the website that you will have access to. If you were the Access for ELL's coordinator, you've been on that site. It's just called something different. It's called the AMS, but it's essentially the functions are very similar. So we'll be getting you access to that in the next month, but we will let you know when that happens. Again, the forward exam is looking at English language arts and mathematics in grades 3 and 5, and in grades 4, that will include additional sections for science and social studies. All right. So the exam must be given in person. So if a student is out, they cannot do this remotely. So again, we'll be talking later on about our students in Madison Promise. So it must be given in person. The window is March 17th through April 25th. So it's a week longer than the AimsWeb window. Students will need tickets, and ClassLink is not available. So they will have an app that is on what's called the app tray in the bottom left of their Chromebook before they log in, and it will be the DRC Insight application that will be there. You will get tickets prior to the window opening, usually around the second week, the week right before March 17th. We'll try and get them to you as quickly as possible, but a lot of things have to happen in order for you to get tickets that are appropriate. So we're going to spend a little time on that. Again, this is a slide similar to what we have gone through for access testing, but it's very much appropriate for this. Again, Chromebooks, if you've got students who are not doing the access test, restarting their Chromebooks is a way to make sure that they are up to date. It's going to be at least operating system 125 or higher. And sometimes students do not they just close their Chromebooks thinking it turns them off. That will not update. So literally pressing the power button, shutting it down, restarting it is the process to ensure that the Chrome OS is up to date. Now, here's where the process for involving schools is, and this is really important so that we can get you tickets in time as early as possible, so that you have those available and can continue your progress. Next week, and hopefully sooner, but we'll see. But next week, we're going to be sending you a school-specific list of information about students. On that list will be a current list of English language learners, plus a tab for students that have an IEP or 504. The purpose is not for you to have to check all those students with an IEP or 504, but to ensure that they do have, this is very similar to what we did for the access. So if they have an open IEP, that's just kind of a reminder that that needs to be taken care of as quickly as possible. Students who are English learners, designated supports are going to be appropriate for them. And so you need to add in those particular students, the supports that they need. So you'll get a list. It'll show you all the students that have any kind of supports that are needed, and we'll be pulling from a student's IEP in order to populate that section. You need to, with your grade level teams, determine what are the appropriate supports for English learners. That needs to be returned to us by February 12th, which is a Wednesday. So you'll get a couple weeks in order to do that. So you might want to think about getting teams scheduled in, or when are you going to have that conversation with them? Because when we get that on February 12th, that's when the work on our end picks up dramatically, so that you can get the tickets with the appropriate accommodations and supports built in. Remember that the forward exam is not timed. Changes that are here that it talks about were changes that took place last year. So there are no changes, no differences from last year to this. The biggest change that we saw last year was in English language arts. So English language arts session 1 continues to be reading. Sessions 2 and 3 are the writing portions of English language arts. So there's a total of 3 sessions. There used to be 4, now there's 3. The writing portions should be amongst those first that you give, and when you're scheduling, building up a schedule, that should be the focus that you should have. Get that done first. For all students, there are 3 ELA sessions and 2 math. For 4th graders, there are an additional 3 sessions of science and 2 sessions of social studies. So the sheet that you have, you see on the right-hand side, I'm going to expand that in the next couple slides. We'll also make that available resources on the website as well. So again, you can see at the top, the grade levels, grades 2, 3, and 4. And hang on. So here are the times for ELA, math, and science. You can see that science does take 105 minutes and social studies 70 minutes. Again, these are approximate times. There is no clock running on these tests. So that's what they have found over time is the amount of time it typically takes. So session 1 of reading, of ELA is 45 minutes, as well as session 2, but session 3 is 35 minutes. Mathematics, 45 minutes is for each session, and science is 35 minutes for each session, as well as social studies for science and social studies for grades 4. So as you're building out time, those are the approximate time it takes in the schedule. Going back to what has changed, I know last year, again, it was this way. However, I just want to point out to you that for the reading comprehension portion, session 1 reading, there is no text-to-speech available. So students will be reading on their own. If they have an accommodation, that is something, again, they will get the instructions read to them, but not any of the passages. So that is a little bit different. Keep in mind that text-to-speech is available to all students. Session 2 is a short reading passage, and then they respond to that passage. They expect one paragraph. So a good paragraph is what they're looking for. Text-to-speech will read everything. There will also be more questions after this. So there will be a writing prompt. They will write, and then there will be some questions, multiple choice questions after this. Again, text-to-speech will read all of this. And finally, session 3, they're just writing to a response or to a prompt. Text-to-speech will read all of this. And again, it's about one paragraph is all that's expected. So again, keeping in mind what students can do and what they're expected to do with the appropriate supports. There is practice, and I would urge that folks do, especially with grade 3 students who've never been on this, and I know that's just one more thing. So I appreciate that, but I'm just suggesting that a practice with those grade 3 students who now are going to be asked to test online in a different way, that's also something. This link that's here in the slide deck can be sent home and shared with families so that families can also see what it is that their students are going to be asked to do. So these are practice questions, not a full test. Keeping in mind, again, the accommodations and supports, we're going to talk about universal first. So all students will get these, regardless of whether they have that available to them in the regular class day, etc. So these are the kinds of things that are embedded in the software. So you see highlighter, notepad, magnifier, etc. Text-to-speech in English is also available for all students. So keep that in mind as well. That's where headsets will come in so that you can have multiple students testing at the same time, listening to just what their computer is working on. Non-embedded would be scratch paper or graph paper. All of those materials, the paper are considered to be secure materials, so you'll need to collect those upon the end. Now, designated supports are available to students that have this need identified by a teacher or a team of teachers, and it's part of the student's regular classroom instruction. So, for example, masking, covering up, being able to cover up a piece of paper, if that's something with what they read. So if that's something that the student does, which is different than a line reader, then that is appropriate. The translations are also embedded in the system. Stack translations are English and Spanish. So in the instructions are English, Spanish. The prompt, where appropriate, is English, Spanish, as well as the responses. Now, the non-embedded portions would be separate settings, noise buffers. Please keep in mind that a human reader requires a one-to-one session. So you cannot have more than one student with a staff member or a person doing the human reader. A reminder on those stack translations. There are 2 flavors. Number 1, stack translations with a text-to-speech in English that will read all of that. So maybe that we have an English learner who is probably a level 5 or 4 or 5, closing in on a 5, maybe an upper 3. So that might be appropriate so that they just have the Spanish there available to them and have the English version read to them. There's also the second choice is stack translations with Spanish text-to-speech. Those must be decided on ahead of time, and you cannot flip-flop between them. even based on the subject matter. So it's going to be a decision that has to be made at the school level, and it will be necessary for you to share that information with us. So that's what's coming on the spreadsheets that's going to be shared with you shortly. All right. And finally, accommodations. These are few and far between. They could be things like video sign language or closed captioning. Those would be embedded in the software. Multiplication table, if that is written into their IEP, or abacus or braille. So those are some things that are only for students who have IEPs or 504s, and that it is written into their IEP or their 504 plan. So please keep that in mind. These are not typical. And so most students, the vast majority of students who have accommodations, can be supported appropriately with the universal or designated supports and accommodations. All right, we'll be getting more information to you soon. The staff webpage is being updated, as well as the public side for information. There will be letters that will be drafted, will be Word versions so that you can put in your own school information. Those will be coming out in February so that you can give folks a heads up once March rolls around. Now I want to just suggest, and I'm not going to, but I want you to know about this because it's important just to make sure that you understand this is available. If there are any teachers who are looking, or you who are looking to be involved at the state level, DPI is looking for staff to go through and help with things like what you see here: range finding, standard setting, new item review. The link that I have here is their application, and it is open until February 7th. This is typically summer work. So if you want to learn more about the test, these are ways that you can do this. And it's from people I've worked with. It is really eye-opening as to what goes into actually creating the forward exam. So that's a professional development that's available for you and for your teachers. All right, so we're going to wind up here. Keep in mind that opting out, we respect that. It needs to be in writing. You need to send that to Jamie Anderson and myself. It needs to be specific. It can't just say opt my child out of all standardized tests. Please keep in mind that this is something that we need to share with the state. So the expectation is that all students will test, that 95% is the minimum goal for groups that are being used by the federal ESSA accountability process, the demographic and service provision groups. And so just please keep in mind that process is available. An email counts. Handwritten note counts. I don't want to get in the habit of, and I won't really accept on rare occasions, text messages and screenshots. So need to make sure that this is actually from an adult saying they don't want their child to test. What are the issues that are involved? If you have less than 95% participation in each and every student group, demographic and service provision, on the state report card, which has come out in November and December, there's no penalty. However, there is a penalty imposed if you get lower than 95% in the ESSA identification or federal identification. If your school is identified as TSI or ATSI, these are things that you need to be aware of. Again, we honor families and their wishes, but helping them understand what it is that they're asking is really important as well. And if you want some more information, I can certainly share that with you. All right, I've spent a lot of time in conversation with myself almost. Here is how you can get a hold of us with our phone numbers and email. I'm going to stop recording now and then open it up for questions. So